Let's first talk about how we can prep our sample. This is our sample holder. It's really important that we don't touch this part here with our hands because it can really contaminate the vacuum in the TEM. So if you do touch it, make sure that it gets polished before use. The little circle in the middle is actually where our sample will be held. We can see through the microscope that the tip of the sample holder actually has two sides to it. We want to make sure that we use the side with the threads facing up so that we can properly secure our sample. These are the four things we need to mount our sample. The first is a plain ring that we put into the holder, and the second is the grid with our fib sample. We line it up based on the curve of the first ring. The third ring is meant to secure the fib sample. It goes on top, and it has little wings on the side that will fit nicely into the sample holder. The last is a hex ring that you will use a small screwdriver to screw it in and keep everything secure. You should be able to tilt the sample holder back and forth and have nothing fall out. Now let's take a look at how we can load the sample into the microscope. Before we can start and load the sample, we have to make a few checks. We have to make sure that the column valve is closed and the vacuum is good, which it looks like it is on the screen because it's all green. We have to make sure the screen inside the TEM is down and the system is set to TEM, mag, image, ESI, and bright field mode. The EELS energy also has to be set to 0, and the stage must be at X, Y, and Z position until at 0. When we make sure that the camera is inserted and a temperature is at negative 20 degrees Celsius, then we can start the process of inserting the sample. When we go to line up the sample to put it into the TEM, there's a little notch on the black part of the sample holder. We want that to be lined up and facing towards us. And once we have that, we can very slowly start to insert the whole sample holder into the TEM. You'll know that the sample is in once you're starting to meet a little bit of resistance. At that point, you can go ahead and let go of your sample. Once you've done this, you can slowly rotate your sample 10 degrees clockwise, very slowly and very gently. And when you do this, a red light will turn on so that you know that the microscope is venting the chamber. It's important to note that once you start turning the sample holder, that you do not twist it back, or else you can confuse the system and it will need to be reset. Once the light turns off, we know that we're ready for the next step. You want to pull out the sample just a little bit, so you can use one hand to stabilize yourself and the other to pull it out. You very slowly and very gently then turn the sample an additional 80 degrees, let it go, and the sample will get sucked into the microscope. Now that the sample is inside, what we want to do to finish up is tap the end of the sample holder because there's a small ruby crystal at the end of the holder that we want to make sure is sitting inside the little pocket in the column so that the sample holder itself doesn't drift. Last step is to connect the pull-tab coax cable to the sample holder, which will control alpha and beta during operation. Now you're all prepped and ready to go.